We've traced Hume's revolutionary skepticism through his major challenges: the problem of induction, showing we can't rationally justify predictions about the future; the analysis of causation, revealing we never observe causal power itself; the is-ought problem, demonstrating you can't derive moral conclusions from factual premises; the claim that reason is the slave of the passions, showing that motivation comes from emotion, not rationality; the sentiment-based account of morality, grounding ethics in feeling rather than reason; and the bundle theory of self, arguing there's no unified, continuing subject of experience. Each of these challenges remains unanswered and continues shaping philosophy, science, and our understanding of human nature. Hume's greatest achievement was exposing the limits of human reason. The Enlightenment celebrated reason as the path to certain knowledge, moral truth, and human progress. But Hume showed that reason alone cannot justify our most basic beliefs about the world, cannot motivate moral action, cannot even establish its own reliability. This isn't nihilism or irrationalism. Hume didn't conclude we should abandon reason or science. He concluded we should recognize that reason operates within limits, that human knowledge rests on foundations reason cannot prove, and that a skepticism about metaphysical certainty is appropriate while we continue making practical judgments. This moderate skepticism has been remarkably fruitful. In science, it led to fallibilism, the recognition that scientific theories are always provisional, subject to revision by new evidence.
Karl Popper built his philosophy of science on Humean foundations, arguing that science proceeds not by proving theories true, but by attempting to falsify them. In epistemology, it led to naturalized approaches that study how humans actually form beliefs rather than how idealized reasoners should. In ethics, it led to recognition that moral philosophy must engage with human psychology and emotion, not just abstract principles. Hume's influence on subsequent philosophy is immense. Immanuel Kant explicitly said that Hume woke him from his dogmatic slumber. Kant's entire critical philosophy, the three critiques that rebuilt epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics, was largely motivated by trying to answer Hume's challenges. Could Kant rescue causation, induction, moral rationalism, and the self from Humean skepticism? Kant thought so, but whether he succeeded remains hotly debated. Many philosophers think Hume's challenges remain unanswered, that Kant's solutions ultimately fail. Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill built utilitarianism on Humean foundations. Hume's emphasis on utility, his grounding of morality in sentiments rather than reason, his recognition that pleasure and pain drive human behavior, all of these influenced utilitarian ethics. Mill explicitly acknowledged his debt to Hume. The logical positivists in the 20th century revived Humean empiricism, arguing that meaningful statements must be either empirically verifiable or logically analytic. Though logical positivism eventually collapsed, its Humean roots remain influential in analytic philosophy's emphasis on clarity, empirical grounding, and skepticism about metaphysics. Modern cognitive science is thoroughly Humean. Studies of how humans actually reason reveal we rely heavily on heuristics, habits, and associations rather than logical deduction. We form expectations based on observed patterns, pure Humean induction. We perceive causation through temporal and spatial associations, Hume's constant conjunction. Moral judgments arise from rapid emotional responses, Humean sentiment. Artificial intelligence and machine learning embody Humean epistemology computationally. They learn from data through pattern recognition, forming associations between frequently conjoined variables without grasping causal mechanisms. They're Humean reasoners, sophisticated but limited, effective but without understanding. Neuroscience continues vindicating Hume's insights about self, emotion, and motivation. Brain imaging shows moral judgment engages emotional systems before rational deliberation. Damage to emotional processing impairs moral judgment even when reasoning remains intact, confirming that sentiment is fundamental to morality. Studies of consciousness reveal no unified self, but distributed processes creating a retrospective sense of unity, Hume's bundle theory. Research on motivation shows desires drive goal-directed behavior, while reason calculates means, reason as slave of passions. Yet Hume's conclusions remain troubling. If induction can't be justified, how is science possible? If causation isn't real, how do we understand the world? If you can't derive ought from is, how do we ground morality? If reason can't motivate, how can we be rational moral agents? If there's no self, who's responsible for actions? These questions don't have satisfying answers.
Hume identified genuine puzzles that can't be dissolved by clever arguments. We must live with uncertainty, with beliefs we can't fully justify, with foundations we can't prove. But Hume thought this was fine. We're built to form beliefs through custom and habit rather than proof. We naturally believe in causation, induction, external objects, and continuing selves. These beliefs are products of human nature, and they work well enough for practical purposes. Skeptical philosophy can reveal that beliefs lack rational justification, but it can't and shouldn't eliminate them. We should be epistemically humble, recognizing the limits of human knowledge, while still engaging practically with the world. This measured skepticism, neither dogmatic rationalism nor paralyzing doubt, is Hume's legacy. He taught philosophy to be less confident in reason's powers, more attentive to human psychology, more aware that many questions have no certain answers. He showed that empiricism, taken seriously, leads to surprising places. He demonstrated that morality doesn't require metaphysical foundations or religious authority. He did all this with remarkable clarity, wit, and humanity. Unlike many philosophers, Hume wasn't trying to build grand systems or establish ultimate truths. He was exploring human nature, examining our limitations, and accepting that some mysteries remain beyond reason's reach. The questions Hume raised remain our questions. In an age of big data and artificial intelligence, we still grapple with distinguishing correlation from causation, pure Hume. In debates about moral foundations, we still struggle with the is-ought gap. In discussions of consciousness and artificial intelligence, we still wonder about the nature of self. In epistemology and philosophy of science, we still face the problem of induction. Hume didn't solve these problems. He showed they're insoluble, at least by pure reason. But he also showed we can live with uncertainty, form useful beliefs without certain foundations, and be moral without metaphysical guarantees. This is perhaps his most important lesson. We can be thoughtful, ethical, and effective even while recognizing the limits of what we can know and prove. We can embrace skepticism without succumbing to despair. We can acknowledge that much of what we believe rests on habit and sentiment rather than rational proof, while still taking our beliefs seriously and living well. David Hume remains one of philosophy's most important and challenging thinkers precisely because he forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the limits of human reason and the foundations of our beliefs. His legacy is not a system of answers, but a set of questions that continue to shape how we think about knowledge, morality, and ourselves.